Something strange and frankly terrifying is happening on the world stage right now. We're seeing powerful leaders get targeted, and in some cases, it looks like they're just vanishing. Today, we're going to dig into a theory that might just explain what on earth is going on.
And it all really kicks off with this one question. Right in the thick of a massive regional war, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has basically disappeared. He's become a ghost, and the signs are getting more and more bizarre every single day.
Okay, so just look at the evidence that's fueling all this speculation. It's weird. Netanyahu hasn't been seen in public for days. He's skipping critical cabinet meetings. His own government has put out these videos of him giving speeches that look like blatantly fake AI. And then, to prove he's alive, they released this photo of him at some remote mountain cafe, a 50-minute drive away. I mean, why there? Why not just hold a press conference? And this is all happening while Iran has been openly targeting his residence. So is he hurt? Is he in some bunker? Or is something much, much stranger going on here?
But here's the thing. This mystery, it isn't just happening in a vacuum. It is part of a much bigger and way more dangerous game.
What we're seeing is leaders on both sides getting targeted with just uncanny precision. This is a full-blown decapitation strategy. I mean, just the other day, Iran's de facto war leader, Ali Larijani, a really influential and pragmatic guy, was assassinated, and the Iranians themselves confirmed it. So this isn't just an escalation, it's like they're totally rewriting the rules of war.
You know, historically, there's a very simple reason you don't kill the enemy's leader. You need someone with authority to talk to when you want the fighting to stop. If you kill the leader, you remove the off-ramp to peace. You pretty much guarantee a fight to the bitter end.
Think about it like gang warfare, right? The big bosses don't usually whack each other. First, because they need each other to enforce any kind of truce, and second, because if you do kill a boss, guess who takes his place? It's always the most violent, most extreme person in the crew, which just makes the war a whole lot worse. But this conflict, this one's different. It seems like both sides are actually aiming for the permanent destruction of the other. They want to burn the off-ramps.
So this leaves us with two absolutely critical questions. First, how is this even happening? Taking out a protected world leader is not an easy thing to do. And second, why is this happening now? Why suddenly abandon a rule of war that's held up for centuries? Well, to answer those questions, we need to bring in a new idea, a theory called the law of proximity. And it suggests that the real fight isn't the one we're all watching on the news. The law of proximity sounds complicated, but it's actually really simple and pretty profound. It just says that we're all dealing with a bunch of different conflicts, at home, at work, whatever. But the one that has the most power over our choices is the one that's physically and emotionally closest to us. It's the conflict inside our own tribe that really, truly matters. And for a whole country, the law of proximity means the most important war it's fighting isn't against some foreign enemy. No, it's the civil conflict happening inside its own borders. That internal fight, that's what dictates everything else. And right now, the key players in this whole global mess, America, Israel, and Iran, they're all completely consumed by their own brutal internal wars. And if you want to understand any of this, you first have to understand these civil conflicts.
So let's start with Israel. A lot of people really don't appreciate just how deeply divided this country is. It's basically two different nations in one. You've got Tel Aviv, which is secular, it's progressive, it's Western-facing. And then you have Jerusalem, which is deeply religious, conservative, and very inward-looking. The religious faction sees Tel Aviv as the animal soul of Israel, materialistic and corrupt, while Jerusalem is the divine soul. And this is the shocking part. Some in Jerusalem actually see the destruction of Tel Aviv in this war not as a tragedy, but as a necessary purification.
And this is not just some cultural divide, it is politically paralyzing. I mean, just look at their parliament, the Knesset. It's completely fractured. Nobody can form a stable government. Netanyahu's own party is a minority, and it completely depends on this coalition of increasingly extreme religious parties, who pretty much hate their secular rivals in Tel Aviv. It is a nation at war with itself.
And the United States is in a very similar boat. There's this theory of elite overproduction, which has basically created two warring factions of elites fighting for control. On one side, you have what's being called Team Empire, backed by Wall Street, and they want to keep the current global order going. And on the other side, you have Team MAGA, backed by Silicon Valley, and they want to pull back from it. And here's the crazy part. Both sides support the current war, but they do it for their own domestic political reasons. Each one believes it's going to ultimately destroy the other.
And this internal war has absolutely massive economic stakes.
We're talking about a $2 trillion private credit bubble run by the finance sector, and at the same time, an AI bubble run by the tech sector. Both are totally unsustainable, both are probably going to burst. So these two factions are fighting for control of Washington so they can be the ones to get the government bailout when it all comes crashing down.
And then, of course, there's Iran, which is torn between the Islamic theocracy that's in power and the secular nationalists who dream of a democratic Persia. And just like in Israel and America, the pressure of this war is making both sides more and more extreme. The theocracy is leaning hard into end-times prophecy. It's known as Shia eschatology, while the nationalists are doubling down on this belief in their own cultural superiority, or Persian exceptionalism. The law of proximity tells us that this internal fight is their real priority.
Okay, so now that we understand all these internal wars, we can finally go back and solve the mystery that we started with.
How are these leaders being targeted with such impossible precision? It's because the intelligence isn't coming from foreign spies. It's coming from inside the house. According to the law of proximity, the religious factions in Jerusalem have more to gain by getting rid of their secular rivals in Tel Aviv than they do by defeating Iran. Factions inside Iran have more to gain by eliminating their own internal enemies. They're literally leaking intelligence on their own side to their external enemy, all to win their internal war.
So, what does this mean for the world? Well, we might be watching the violent death of one world order and the birth of a brand new one. These internal wars happening in country after country are pushing the whole world away from the secular, globalized financial order that we've all known and pushing us towards a new era defined by nationalist, theocratic rule.
And you have to understand the mindset that's driving this whole shift. For these rising religious factions in all these different countries, war and destruction, they're not failures, they're tools. They are driven by a belief that humanity can only find redemption and get closer to God through suffering. For them, destruction is a path to purification.
So if the law of proximity is right, then all of these massive global conflicts are really just external projections of the civil wars happening inside these nations. And that kind of leaves you with one final, very personal thought. If the conflict within a nation shapes the fate of the entire world, what does the conflict within you, between your own animal and divine souls, what does that ultimately shape?